I can remember having conversations with my dad and literally him saying and me agreeing that it looked like an 8-bit Nintendo game. That, what is this? This is supposed to be Super Nintendo? What is this? This looks like something you'd find on the NES. But first, a word about this video's sponsor, Delete Me. When I was a kid growing up in the late 80s and early 90s, we didn't even have the internet. My family didn't own a computer until 1996. And you know what? We really didn't have to worry about having our private data stolen and plastered all over the World Wide Web for all to see. Luckily, Delete Me is here to help you regain some semblance of those good old days. Data brokers are corporations that collect huge amounts of personal information and package it all together to create profiles or listings with your personal information. These profiles include things such as social security numbers, birthdays, past and recent addresses, and more. Data brokers crawl the web searching for information and use it to build a profile of you. Delete Me gives you back control by eliminating your private data from thousands of websites. After you sign up, just tell them exactly what information you want deleted, and their privacy experts will take it from there. I was done with the setup process quick, and within a few days, I had a full detailed report with all of their takedowns. Score 1 for the good guys. If you sign up today using my link in the description, they are giving my viewers a coupon code for 20% off. Just use promo code RETROLIFE. Thanks, Delete Me, for sponsoring today's video. What you have to understand is that back in 1995, when Earthbound first came out, we kind of thought it was a terrible game.
No way! Not!
I can remember flipping through the pages of Nintendo Power magazine and seeing the original advertisements for this game, and they literally on the page and in the advertising campaign would say, "This game stinks." No other game company did stuff like this back in the 90s, and we didn't know what to think of it. I remember me and my dad first flipping through the pages and wondering, what are we even looking at? I can remember scratching the page. You know, it was a scratch and sniff deal where you scratched certain images on the page, whether it be the pizza or one of the monsters, and you got these different smells coming off this magazine page, and the game is advertising itself as a game that stinks. Those are my first memories of Earthbound. Back then, I wasn't fully on board with role-playing games yet. I was about 9 years old, and I loved action RPGs like Secret of Mana. That was my gateway into role-playing games. And The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, of course, was a masterpiece. And I loved those kind of action RPGs. Here was a game that was catching my attention, and it was this traditional kind of Japanese turn-based RPG. But it was so different, you know, it wasn't a game of swords and sorcery. It wasn't like Final Fantasy or Zelda, where it took place in medieval times and it was this fantasy adventure with, you know, magic and spells. And no, this was very different. This was a game that, from the pictures in the magazines that I was viewing, it looked like it came right out of our own world, that it was grounded in our reality. It intrigued me so much, guys. Oftentimes you would find these Nintendo store kiosks where you could push the button on the kiosk and it would play a video, it would play a clip of the game that you selected. And sometimes you would even be able to play the game with the controller, like a demo. And I think my first experience viewing Earthbound actually was just a video that the store kiosk would play.
Can 4 average kids save the world from an alien invader? With your help, they can in Earthbound for your Super NES. The fate of mankind is being threatened by the evil alien Gygus, but 4 spunky kids with psychic powers accept this incredible challenge and embark on a journey to save the world. 24 megs power this adventurous game as you travel to 12 different locations and select from more than 40 weapons and 80 items to battle your enemies. It's Earthbound for your Super NES.
I didn't get to actually have hands-on time with it, and I remember watching the video and seeing the graphics. We saw that the game had very, very bad graphics. Understand, guys, we were a gaming culture back then in 1995 that was all about graphics. I mean, if you didn't have great graphics, you were just considered not good back then. And that was how the vernacular was in the gaming magazines. That was the general public consensus, was that if the game didn't have good graphics, it just wasn't good. And even my dad and I, who were lovers of Atari and, older games like on the NES and Sega Master System, even we kind of fell into this category of, when the new games were coming out, we expected them to look amazing. And Earthbound, it just looked like... I can remember having conversations with my dad and literally him saying, and me agreeing, that it looked like an 8-bit Nintendo game. What is this? This is supposed to be Super Nintendo? What is this? This looks like something you'd find on the NES. It was such an oddity to see that Nintendo was releasing this game that looked like it came out on the previous generation console, 8-bit, because just the previous Christmas in 1994, Nintendo had released the groundbreaking Donkey Kong Country.
Donkey Kong Country! Donkey Kong Country!
Oh my god.
Donkey Kong!
Nintendo was trying to convince people that they didn't have to buy a Sega Saturn or a Sony PlayStation. With Donkey Kong Country, we almost believed it. I mean, that game was my favorite game that I got Christmas of 1994. Donkey Kong Country blew my mind. But then Earthbound comes out in 1995, and you're like, what? We passed on the game. We decided we were not going to buy Earthbound. But a funny thing happened, guys. As I got a little bit older, I became a much bigger fan of role-playing games. And I can remember specifically the game that got me into turn-based role-playing games was Super Mario RPG. I remember getting Super Mario RPG and having that game change the way I thought of role-playing games. I became a traditional turn-based JRPG fan. And this is where I started rethinking my stance on Earthbound. I started becoming really intrigued by it. By 1997, Earthbound was a game that you would find almost every day. At every Best Buy you went to, you would find Earthbound in the bargain bin. Earthbound had become this misunderstood child of Nintendo's, tossed aside by the gaming public, not embraced in its day, not when it came out, not appreciated in its time. And there it was. I remember distinctly, guys, seeing piles of Earthbound, those giant boxes. The game came with the strategy guide inside it, and I just remember seeing an entire bin of these Earthbound boxes. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe Dad and I were too harsh on this game when it first came out, and I think I finally came to a point. I was around 11 or 12 years old, and I just came to this point where I was ready. I was ready to play Earthbound, and I wanted the game. I started asking my dad to get the game. I started expressing to him my desire to own Earthbound. I'd always point it out at the stores, in the bargain bins, and kind of wink, wink, hint, hint. And by the time my birthday rolled around, in April of 1998, I was 12 years old, I received Earthbound from my dad.
What do you think, Brian?
It's cool.
Whoa, now you're Quakemeister. Let me see the back. Come closer. Back up.
It says, "Id somewhere."
Cool. Well, that's an official id shirt.
Yeah. Quake.
All right, keep going. That's from the frog that was in the backyard that Therese stepped on.
Yeah. Oh, this is
And made her toe turn into fungus.
Earthbound! Yeah! Oh, yeah. Yes. Storage kite.
Super NES, huh?
Yeah.
Blast from the past. You have that, Brian?
Yeah, my brother is.
All right, keep going.
It's sort of crazy receiving Earthbound that year because this was at a time when we were getting Sega Saturn games, PlayStation games.
Pitfall 3D! Yes! Yes! I didn't know it was out.
Another game that I got on that same day, my birthday, was Time Crisis on the PlayStation 1. I mean, that game just blew my mind. But here was Earthbound, the little 16-bit game that could, or could not, depending on who you talk to. But I was willing to give it a chance. I really wanted it, and I remember being so excited to finally get Earthbound.
Earthbound! Yeah! Oh, yeah. Yes.
I remember jumping into the world of Earthbound, and it was really a perfect age for it. Earthbound painted this picture of American life, suburbia, but kind of told through the lens of a Japanese game developer. Booting up this game and creating the characters in the beginning, you get to name the characters. And I loved naming the characters and how the game asks you for your favorite food. What's your favorite food? It asks you, and you get to name your dog. You have a dog associate, a dog companion in this game. And I remember naming the dog in the game Maggie after my own dog, who was this white dog that looked just like the dog in the game, kind of like a Cocker Spaniel. And I was able to, because of those sort of things, really immerse myself into Earthbound. And man, what a wacky, wild game. What a game that just took you into another world, but it was a world a lot like our own. It was grounded in our reality, but here were these alien invaders coming down to invade Earth, and you and your friends have to set off on this almost Goonies-esque adventure. The parents are not on this adventure with you. It's you and your friends. I felt like I was Ness. Of course, I didn't name him Ness. I named him Tyler. I was able to immerse myself into the game. And really, no other game like it at the time made me feel like I was playing a game that was made for me. I was Ness. Earthbound to me is just childhood. It's kind of that preteen adolescent age, because that's when I got the game, 12 years old, and I can just remember playing this game and it changing something in me, it flipping a switch, giving me something new that I'd never before experienced in a video game before, this sense of I'm in the game, that these could be my friends, that this could be my mom and dad. Earthbound was made for kids like us in the late 90s.
Well, so ends another birthday. Let me see your shirt.
Hookups.
Tyler, the question is, what does hookups mean?
Maggie knows the answer.
Right, girl?
It's so weird, all that time and all that buildup waiting and not buying Earthbound when it first came out in '95, all of that time I spent thinking, this game stinks. When really, it was just perhaps the wrong marketing campaign for a beautifully crafted and beautifully made Super Nintendo game. Well, that's about it, guys. Thank you for watching this video. I want to know, before we go, tell me a little bit about your memories with Earthbound or the Mother series. If you have some special moments that you had with the game growing up, maybe you got it back in the day, maybe you didn't experience Earthbound until you discovered NES in Super Smash Bros. And maybe that led you down a rabbit hole to becoming a huge fan of Earthbound. I want to know about it in the comments below. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for listening to my story, hearing me talk about my memories getting the original Earthbound. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.